leadership.
Welcome, everyone. As we take our seats, we are ready to convene for our regularly scheduled meeting of the Energy Consumers Advisory Committee for April 19th, 2010. We will start with call to order and Pledge of Allegiance. Would we all please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We're going to start with a roll call. Marion?
Mr. Sharp? Mr. Anderson?
Present.
Ms. Carrillo? Mr. Alsop?
Here.
Mr. Nunez? Mr. Perez?
What?
Are you here? Yes, you're here. Mr. Zendejas?
Here.
Mr. Cervantes? Mr. Nunn? Mr. Blum?
Here.
Ms. Franklin?
Here.
Mr. McNicky?
Here.
Mr. Hernandez?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Ms. Ramos-Watson?
Here.
Ms. Broughton?
Here.
Ms. Soleil?
Here.
Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to item number 2, approval of the minutes for March 1st, 2010. We have before us the minutes in our packet. Is there any revisions, corrections, additions to the minutes? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Move. Second.
A motion by Councilmember Hernandez. Oh, Mr. Blum. A second by Mr. Perez. Any further discussion?
One abstention, please.
One abstention. City of Coachella, Mr. Hernandez. And City of La Quinta, Ms. Franklin. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any objection?
One.
One objection? Objection to the minutes?
That was my vote.
Okay. Thank you. Item number 3, public comment period. This is the time set aside for any member of the public wishing to address the committee on an item not listed on the agenda to please make themselves known. I don't know if we have request to speak forms, but we have a podium and a microphone. Seeing no one come forward, we will move on and close the public comment period to item number 4, new member introductions. Where are our new members?
The 2 new members that we were going to do this for are not here.
Okay. Yeah, we were going to go through a formal introduction for the benefit of the 2 committee members. We had 1 committee member that was new last meeting that we didn't get a chance to formally introduce ourselves to. And then there's been a second appointment to replace Norma.
Yes.
Norma. And that committee member's not here tonight, so we will table this item if there be no...
What are their names?
Their names, Marion?
You guys met Chris Nunez. He was took Mr. Ham's position, and then there is Tony Carrillo. She is taking Norma's position.
Chris Nunn. Chris Nunn?
Nunez. N-U-N.
N-U-N-N. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so if there be no objection, we're going to table this item until next month so that we can have time to get to know each other again. Moving on to item number 5, ECAC goals and objectives. This time we have a PowerPoint presentation before us, and staff is going to walk through a PowerPoint on goals and objectives for the ECAC.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the ECAC, I'm Kevin Kelly, and I'll just be teeing this item up for our staff members who are here tonight. You'll recall that one of your members inquired about goal setting generally, and the IID board took this item up last week. The action it took was to receive and file the backup that was provided that's reflected in your agenda packets tonight. Marion will go through the specific goals, and then Pat Swarthout will query your membership about anything else that you believe needs to be included. And we have staff members here that can respond to questions you may have. But perhaps you, Ms. Soleil, would like to say something in as much as you requested this item.
Okay. Per the IID ECAC agenda report issued for today's meeting, ECAC was created to assist the IID Board of Directors in vetting issues of critical concern to energy rate payers in the Imperial and Coachella Valleys, including strategic aims of the Energy Department. And it has been stated by some that this commission was reconstituted to give Coachella Valley energy consumers a say in IID energy affairs, since they have no voting representation on the board. The objectives, as stated in the agenda report, do not indicate this. The statement also does not indicate that the Commission is to assist the Board in, quote, identifying issues of critical concern to energy ratepayers, which is what I originally thought this Commission was about. According to the dictionary, the word vet means to subject to thorough examination or evaluation. Hence, this Commission has been reacting to a set of administration-identified concerns, such as the quote, integrated energy resource plan, a comprehensive infrastructure plan, a comprehensive financial strategy, and even the energy budget, and not to identifying and overseeing the implementation of consumer-identified goals and aspirations. Although the administration is trained and paid to identify concerns that affect the operation of this utility, the reports we've been reacting to take the Commission into areas way beyond our pay grade on a multitude of issues. Although IID staff is doing its best to educate the Commission, a fair evaluation of technical, financial, and infrastructure proposals takes a great deal of engineering and technical background and tasks the Commission with the same deep oversight that the IID board was elected to provide. Although the Commission has no vote on the board and no power to hire or fire, reports describing issues the administration is contending with lead to adverse speculation on employee competence and leadership, issues that will then have to be submitted before the board for a second go-round, and this on a monthly basis. The question is, does this in-depth administrative and technical scrutiny constitute the most effective use of this Commission? If the Commission has any real benefit, it must surely be connected to input from the local regions represented. Meeting twice a year or even 3 times a year to express consumer concerns, set goals, and monitor progress toward resolving these concerns would be a more positive use of Commission time.
That was a lot to digest.
Wasn't it?
We should have emailed this to all of us.
I was going to, but
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to get to read it, so I didn't.
I understood your second paragraph, but let's talk about the first paragraph.
Yes.
In your analysis, this committee was created to vet issues of critical concern to the energy ratepayers.
Correct. That was what was the stated purpose in this information that was sent to all of us.
In the bylaws? Is that what
It
she's
was
referring to?
energy. Let's see, where is that? I'm sorry, I'm in minutes. It was in.
The only document we have that governs us is the bylaws.
Correct. Well, the background. All right, on this page right here of what was sent to us.
On the memorandum.
Yes. Under background, it reiterates the 1994-2008 thing, and it says, is to assist the Imperial Irrigation District Board of Directors in vetting issues of critical concern to energy ratepayers in the Imperial and Coachella Valleys, including strategic aims of the Energy Department. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that we're going in depth into discussions on the technical side of things, which is wonderful. I'm learning a whole lot, and I'd rather be educated than not educated. But to be fair to administrators who have spent a lifetime preparing themselves to make judgments on these things, I don't think we can hope to be as astute as they are in coming up with these types of rulings. And the board has this job that they were elected to do. They hire and fire, I suppose, if necessary, and they make these crucial changes. I feel our main contribution and our most effective contribution as a commission is for us to bring the concerns and aspirations of people in our particular regions to the board and to the administration, and see if we can't come up with some goal setting and realistic feedback on whether these things are possible, they aren't possible, and things that we can really contribute something fair about.
Ms. DeLay, I understand where you're coming from now, and I think that's the purpose of having this agenda item today, is that so from this point forward, we all start from the same foundation with the same understanding, and that we're able to be as effective and efficient as possible. I find it a little contradicting the memorandum and the bylaws. The memorandum is a summary of somebody's synopsis of what the bylaws say. And the only document that does truly govern us is the bylaws. Even though there was controversy on the need for them, we did ultimately adopt them. And the bylaws state that the purpose of our committee is to provide advice and recommendations to the board. So that's a totally different angle from what you're talking about as far as receiving consumer input. We're not saying that we won't listen to consumer input. I think each one of us individually and respectively has outreach within the communities, and we do receive input on an impersonal level, not in a formal level. And that is what we bring to this commission, is so that we can bring that input and make suggestions or recommendations and provide advice to the board. So I think we're both saying the same thing. You're just looking at it from another angle, which is from the consumer angle. And we as a committee did agree that the bylaws would govern us and kind of set the framework for how we would work. Personally, I do agree with you that we've gotten off in areas that I don't need to be educated on. I don't want to be an IID technical expert. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to help guide and provide whatever advice I can to the board to make sure that the consumers' needs are met and that their concerns are heard. So I think the purpose of this PowerPoint is going to answer a lot of those questions. Mr. Blum?
Yes. The rest of the purpose of the bylaws states that we're supposed to make advice and recommendations regarding fiscal, strategic planning, and IID board policy matters to the extent such matters affect the Energy Department. I don't see that precludes very much.
The board concerning certain issues to be addressed by the board regarding, yes, fiscal, strategic planning, policy matters, and any matters to the extent that...
I think anything that does come before the board or may come before the board, it is appropriate to bring it before the ECAC, as all business matters that come to the board will eventually affect the ratepayer. And it is, I think it is appropriate for them to make those presentations to us. If they're too technical, then that's another issue for us to address. Some it will be too technical for us, but for others it will not. But I think it's good for us to be more educated as we spend more time on the ECAC, so that we can make more intelligent decisions. But I haven't seen anything that I could readily identify in the last year or two that I thought was inappropriate for them to bring before us.
Okay, there are two differences of opinions here, and that's fine.
I disagree. According to what was written, I'm just saying, is that really the most effective use?
Efficient. You
Sorry.
have a bug in your hair.
Thank you.
Okay, well, let's let staff go through the PowerPoint presentation, and we will each have an opportunity to give our position or our preference, and between all of us, we will find a happy medium, okay? Kevin?
Madam Chair, I think that Mr. Blum's comments actually are a good segue to the presentation Marion will make. What she'll be presenting are those Energy Department strategic goals that are consonant with what we believe the task of ECAC is. And we think that those are broad enough so as not to preclude the policy matters that you speak of. So, Marion?
We won't kill the messenger.
Yeah.
Well, you guys,
Ask a lot of questions.
You got thrown to the wolves.
yes. Well, my name's Marion Champion. I'm your ECAC coordinator.
Speak into the mic, please.
Is that better, Gil?
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I think we've already gone over the ECAC background enough. Let's just go into a little bit about the need for setting the goal setting. As Patricia and some of the other members have recently voiced frustrations with the lack of committee focus, the lack of a goal, the lack of a scope, I've begun the process with management and with the board members to start talking about what it is, what's the scope, what would be the most beneficial use of your time. And we feel by creating goals and objectives, we can foster the advisory role of the committee and place an emphasis on the strategic issues related to the Energy Department. Back in 2008, after Dr. Brady came on board, IID held a series of stakeholder meetings with senior management and created a strategic plan. This is a strategic plan that has clearly defined objectives for all of the departments, the energy, the water, and the centralized services department of the organization. Comprised of 7 main objectives, the plan is reviewed every year and progress is reporting back to the board quarterly. Pat and I recently met with Lupe and with other members on the ECAC committee and to determine Pat and I recently met with the Energy Department and the board to determine which objectives the ECAC could have the most impact on and where the committee can add the most value. We pulled out 3 main energy objectives and highlighted tasks that will benefit from the ECAC input. Many of these are ongoing, and progress has already been made on several of these. You've probably heard components and pieces of these throughout the past year, but this will kind of tie it all back together. Going forward, all of our agenda items will map back, assuming you agree, all of the agenda items will map back to one of these objectives so that the committee has a real clear idea on how the committee topics relate to the department and its goals. The first objective is Objective A, which is a comprehensive financial strategy. We've pulled out one of the tasks there, and that would be prior to any board action, the ECAC will have the opportunity to conduct a preliminary review of the annual energy budget. Also this year, we will be asking committee members to attend workshops with the board and the public to go over the agendas line item by line item. I will have a schedule for that probably by our next meeting, and I'll be able to give you those dates so you have lots of advance notice. The next objective is Objective C, which is an integrated energy resource plan, and that would entail reviewing and assisting with policies associated with the following department activities: optimization of generation, transmission, and distribution assets, enhanced demand-side management programs, enhancement of IID's use of renewable energy resources, system expansion plans to facilitate the growth of renewable energy generation within IID's service territory, and, of course, a communication strategy that will detail and pull all of this together. The last objective, which is Objective D, includes building a comprehensive infrastructure plan. We'll ask the ECAC's guidance in reviewing department plans to develop and implement a life cycle management policy and practice. We'll also ask them to review department plans to develop and implement an asset inventory management system. We feel that these areas within the strategic plan within the IID, these would be the best areas for your input and your advice, and you can really help steer the organization within this area.
Well, now Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Patrick Swarthout. I know that Christy wants people to introduce themselves, even though you know who we are. Patrick Swarthout, I'm the Governmental Affairs Officer. And now that you've heard what the goals and objectives are, we are going to look to you for input on how you guys want to broaden that or what scopes you want to look at. And I do know that I think, Lupe, you had mentioned something about looking at the rates on a annual or biannual type thing. So those are the kind of scopes of work that we're looking for input from you as to what direction you want to take these goals and objectives. So at this point, and I know that it's new and it really, guys haven't really had a chance to really get deep into what's going on, but I know you've been here for a long time, and so if there's any recommendations that you want to give to us, and this is not just today, so between now and next month, if you think of something that you'd like to add to this, please submit it to Marion or myself. Yeah, go ahead, Frank.
Patrick, how do these goals and objectives compare to the goals and objectives of the board?
These are directly from the strategic plan.
Okay, all right.
So everything that came out of these goals and objectives came from the strategic plan, which is being updated currently. It was developed in 2008. It was revised in October of 2009, and I believe the Energy Department is in another revision for 2010. Am I correct? Mario's shaking his head yes. So
thank you.
Okay, at this time, let's try to keep our just the questions, pour out the questions, and then after we're done asking staff the questions, we're going to go committee member by committee member and give our feedback on how we see this working for us, okay? Sure. So right now it's time to get all your questions out. So Gil, go ahead and get your questions out.
Well, not a question, just a statement that on your first objective on the budget review, that's something that we used to do. But the problem has been lately is that staff never been able to put a budget or even anything we can look at until the day before it needs to be adopted. Is that going to be changed, or is it going to continue the same doggone thing that's been going on for the past 3-4 years?
Well, we discussed that amongst ourselves and management, and our understanding is that you will see the budget the same time the board sees the budget.
Well,
in the study sessions, not when they're going to approve it.
No, not when they're going to approve it. And my understanding is that when it comes out in October, that's when you're going to first see the budget. Because that's when the board gets to see it, my understanding is.
Draft form, right?
Yeah, it's going to be in a draft form because they have to go through all the hearing processes and do all that. So that's the understanding that we have right now, that when she gets the schedule, and that hasn't come out yet from the finance department, but once that schedule's out, you'll be able to see when they submit. I guess it's a book of some kind that comes out, and you will see that when the board sees it.
Do we have any questions on this side of the room? Not yet? Not yet, okay. How about this side? Do we have more questions, Mr. Blum?
Yes, you mentioned the ECAC participating in the review and the construction of the budget, and that we would participate in meetings with that. Obviously, there's a logistic issue there for those of us in the northern part and those of us in the southern part. Are you going to duplicate meetings for north
Absolutely.
and south? Okay.
What they do is they hold a budget hearing in Imperial, and they do both water and power in Imperial. And last year, they had a budget hearing up here, and it was specifically power, only the power department side, and it's here in this building.
Well, that's a great idea, because I think that'll really enhance the participation of the members.
And you guys will have those scheduled dates when all of that happens.
Right. Thank you, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, Gil?
The other thing this committee did when we originated the committee was to participate in the expenditure of the public benefits funds and review what was required and what was being requested. We haven't done that in a long time. Staff now does it, which I think was it was taken over by them instead of bringing it back to this committee. This committee, one of the purpose of this committee was to do just that.
I'll let Dave answer that one.
And I guess, Dave, the question is, would that be a part of our Objective A for us to be involved in that process?
That's correct. One of this is Dave Koch, the planning manager. One of the chapters for sections in the Integrated Resource Plan is development of our energy efficiency program. Now, this year, we've separated the energy efficiency or demand-side management from the low-income assistance program, emergency assistance program. So we've looked at the approximately $13 million that is collected through the public benefit funds, allocated what is necessary to meet the LEAP and EAP, low-income efficiency program, low-income assistance program, LEAP, and emergency assistance program, EAP. Separated those out. Those are necessary, and we're going to keep those programs going. But whatever money's left over, approximately $5.5 million in public benefit funds, plus another $5 million that's collected as part of the power supply budget. We're designing our programs based upon that. Those would go into the Integrated Resource Plan.
Dr. Koch, thank you for the information, but at this time we're sticking to the parameters of what our goals and objectives are, not the details. So Gil's question was, will that analysis or that process be part of Objective A? And the answer was yes. That is one of the items that will fall under the purview of Objective A. Similarly, as Patrick mentioned, my question was, would rate analysis be a part of Objective A? And that's something that's certainly open to discussion. What other types of pieces would come under Objective A?
That part of it would be the sort of component we would expect would come up as the committee takes this up when we're finished presenting. But to Mr. Perez's query on public benefits, you can see that Objective C does have a special reference to enhanced demand-side management, and that's our new, that's what we're calling public benefits. So it's explicitly an ECAC function.
Gil, do you see that? Bullet number 2 under Objective C says that we will review the Enhanced Demand-Side Management Program, which Kevin just said is the new name for the Public Benefit Fund. Do you agree that that's what you were looking for? Okay. Any other questions on this side of the room?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Mr. Ains.
This is a little bit off of the question. This month I've had 3 phone calls from people requesting where do I go to sign up for public benefits. I used to handle that in North End, Calapat, Island, Bombay, and when they changed it, I've kind of lost track of it. Is this still even in existence? Paying the assistance on the electric bills?
Absolutely.
Who can Mr. Elsip refer to these people to?
I'll give him it's the same offices we always have. All the division offices plus South Central.
Okay.
All 3 of them said they have been to the office in El Centro and Brawley, and they know nothing about it. Now, I told them the same thing you did. Go to the
maybe
division
because
office.
The new name is Enhanced Demand-Side Management Program.
Do you have a phone number?
They changed the name.
Do you have a phone number? I'll call
we
tomorrow
haven't
and get
changed
it.
the name for the low-income.
Oh, that's something else.
That's
okay.
there. I can tell you exactly where out here in the main lobby, they'll take applications.
Yeah.
They'll take applications in the office behind Valley Plaza. We have a small room set aside just for that.
Yeah.
And at the Raleigh and Calexico offices.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions on the staff presentation? Okay, the way I understand the staff presentation is that they're giving us the general parameters of the board's strategic plan, but as far as how we have agenda items come up and how we want to make sure that certain things are taken a look at, this is the opportunity for us to share with them what we would like to see under these objectives. You have a question?
Question related to The question I would have is that I believe our role is policy. And with what comes forward, I agree with Frank. We need to get some of that, but I think some of it's too technical. And what I want to know is this good public policy? Is this good for our consumers? And then tell me why we should recommend it. That's what I care about. Is it good public policy? Is it good for the consumers? And that relates to the infrastructure and some of the other things. But I don't need the technical stuff. I just need to know, is this infrastructure good? Good public policy? Good for the consumer? And tell me why we can tell people. That's what I would expect on our staff reports.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and go to committee members' comments at this point so that we can start to kind of get a feel for what the needs of the committee are to fulfill the board's objectives. Mr. Zendejas, do you mind if I start with you? Do you have any guidance for staff or comments on how the board has suggested objective A, C, and D as our areas of focus?
I pretty much agree with Gil. I've been in this committee before, for like 5 years ago, and we had what Gil is saying about the public benefits. And like Roy is saying that at one time in small communities, they had the people assigned to help the people that don't have transportation to sign up for these programs. So they might be able to reinstate these programs to service clubs or to church or somebody out there, especially in the Bombay Beach area, the Island area. There's a lot of people that don't have transportation.
Okay, so your area of focus would be to continue to make sure that you are able to articulate to the consumer what the benefits to them are, and that's your area of focus. And that's a good thing, actually, because I was going to make a comment when it came to my turn that, my focus is more long-term planning and infrastructure. That's not right or wrong, but I think that between the 20 of us, we're all going to add such a value to this committee, and staff is going to be able to understand, what the melding of all of the needs from our perspectives are for the community. So thank you, Mr. Zendejas, for sharing your focus.
Well, I think we're on the right track, and I think we all have a lot to learn, and I think we can do a better job in the future to advising the board in different areas that need to be addressed.
Thank you. Mr. Hernandez?
I definitely think that we're on the right track in terms of setting some goals and objectives for this committee and organization. The biggest thing I would add is how do we measure our success and looking at this, year after year after year. So I would add that to part of this goal and objective session here is to figure out a measuring tool in which we can track our success. The other thing, though, I'm a little troubled or just a little bit not so much confused, but just puzzled here on. I don't think we should. I look at this committee not so much in terms of the approval of the public policy, because obviously we're not the policymakers, but I do hope that we vet the policy, and very similar to a planning commission. A planning commission obviously gets to look at new projects that are coming into a city or a county, and sometimes there are terms there that if you're not a planner, you may not understand, like a CEQA document, or you name it. There's a lot of technical terms. So I'm not afraid of technical terms or learning those technical terms, particularly if those terms inform my policy recommendation. So that's the only caveat that I would add, that that not to be scared of some of the technical kind of components, but also with that, I hope that staff is readily available to answer a lot of our questions if we do have some technical concerns. But for the most part, I think we're on the right
yeah,
track.
And you bring up a good point. It's not that we fear or that we are adverse to receiving technical information, because it does support better policy recommendations for the board, and I think we're all in agreement with that. It's just that some of us didn't see the tie between the technical information that was given to us to the actual policy, and that's where the disconnect was. So that's great input. This is all, as we start to gather all of these pieces together, we're going to start to see the fabric weaved that's going to be our foundation, our net, our safety net that's really going to help carry this committee forward. So thank you for your comments. Mr. Blum?
I think we've got a marvelous base here in these three objectives, and I'm sure, or at least I would expect, that this is not fixed in cement, that it'll have modifications and additions and subtractions or deletions from it as we go along. But this is a great place to start, and I'm totally 100% with it. So great work. Thank you.
Okay, so in a nutshell, Mr. Blum, you're saying be flexible to the amount?
Yeah, I think that this will be, if we can be flexible with it, then we can massage it and modify it as time goes on. Yes,
contract,
sure.
Yeah. It's more of a living document for us.
Yes.
Okay, great input. Mr. Perez?
I think that these are marvelous. However, once we look at them, we seem to forget that we have them. I would like to.
Can we tattoo on our forehead?
I would like to see, for example, a quarterly or semi-annual review first of the budget, see where we stand financially. The same thing with the public benefits funds. Those should be done quarterly, as it was stated originally. A quarterly review of the expenditures, because in the past 2 years, there's been times where they've overspent or the funds that are allocated to certain areas. We never knew about it, but I've heard it over at the board meeting where they're asking the board to increase the line item, but it was never brought back to this committee. I hope that can be alleviated if we follow these goals and objectives. And I think this is what the purpose of these goals and objectives are. But unless we review them quarterly in some cases or semi-annually in some cases, they're not worth the paper they're written on. And I hate to say that, but that's exactly the way I feel, that sometimes they're nice the way they're written, but we don't follow them. That's it.
That's great input, because that ties back to Mr. Hernandez's comment, which is we need to be able to measure our success. So staff, we're asking if we can figure out some periodic review of the fiscal and our strategic goals to see how we're meeting those. Okay? Great. Thank you, Gil.
Well, Madam Chair, just real quick, I know on the public benefits charge, or now demand side management, they give monthly updates to the board, so we would be more than happy to come and do that same thing.
They never give them to us.
Well, that's all changing. That's what we have this year now. So we've got it.
Thank you. See, Gil, you speak and you will receive.
Be careful.
I know. Ms. Soleil?
I am hopeful that our tendency to we're being given things that would invite us to micromanage the situation, micromanage IID administration, etc. And I really believe that the way that we're given things, if we are led to look at all of the details, then people are compelled to go study and research. Well, gee, the Reebok. This is an old jazz allusion. Is the Reebok attached to the Hansefragen? That was just nothing. In other words, it doesn't really mean anything to us. It only means something to us if we're coming from how does this affect policy. I think you have really hit the nail on the head with that, because we are not capable of telling you how to construct a budget. We really are not. That is why administration is hired, and unless when we're reviewing goals and objectives, we're assuming that this budget will further those goals and objectives, or that the board will, if the board approves of those goals and objectives, that the budget will be furthering it. And if we fall short because the budget didn't adequately address those things, then that's something for the board to take up. Our committee is simply to advise. what we think the people would be for or against, I guess, too.
Okay, so in a nutshell, you're still focused, and rightly so, on the energy consumers' needs and input, but you also want to make sure that you can see the connection between the agenda items and how do they relate to the policy recommendations or advice that we're giving to the board.
Correct.
Without being at the micromanaging level.
Correct.
Marion, I'm going to go over this with you afterwards, don't worry. But good that you're writing it down. Great. Thank you, Ms. Soleil. Ms. Franklin.
Patrick, I have a question for you, and then I'll make a comment. Under Objective C, the last bullet point is a customer communication strategy detailing all of these activities. What is that? What is that? What does that mean?
I'll let Marion or Kevin think.
Which one is she? What is she referring to?
That's also pulled directly from the IID board strategic plan, and that's also an ongoing process. It isn't completed. I believe that the due date is that the board's expecting to see it in the next month or so. Our staff member that has responsibility for that isn't at this meeting tonight, but I would expect that just as you have a first look at the budget, that you'd also have first shot at this comprehensive communications plan as it relates to the energy department.
Is that a reference to the public communication program, the public information programs, for example, what we get in our bills?
It would be beyond just that printed matter. Now that you've got a strategic plan or you have substantial progress, we believe, in implementing a strategic plan, this would address, what are the specific steps in communicating that to customers.
Thank you, Kevin. Ms. Franklin, do you want to continue?
Yes. The one thing I think that this is such a good beginning step. I'm very pleased with that. The one thing that I have missed over my year plus being here is feedback. So from staff. So we, for example, make a recommendation concerning the budget as a board, and we never hear where it went. Sometimes we read things in the paper, but there's no. We say something, and then it's like it's in cyberspace. Mm-hmm. So some sort of feedback to us to say, the board discussed the budget, and they didn't like item A that you said, but they like B, that kind of thing would be absolutely great.
That feedback part of it, that was voiced by many of you in these one-on-one interviews. The board hasn't seen that yet. I have, and the sort of disconnect between the ECAC taking a position, the board perhaps going another way, and then there being no follow-up to the ECAC. We can stop that and fix that right away.
Okay. Just a quick question. You said the board has seen that. What did they see?
No, the board has not yet seen it.
No, you said you had seen that. What did you see?
What it was an extrapolation of all of the
nice things we said, right?
And it was so painful for me that I decided.
That's what I want to make sure. It's very nice.
It would be best to wait some time before presenting it to the board. But the general manager's seen it, the energy department's reviewed it, and the board will see it next.
Thank you, Kevin. Mr. Blum?
If I may, on the customer communication, which Christy brought up, I'm wondering if it's possible for the ECAC board members to receive copies of the minutes of the board meetings so that we can stay abreast of the issues that are going before the board and period.
Certainly, those are public documents. We can provide those to the ECAC.
And they're also online, right?
They're online, Frank.
They're online, right?
They are online,
okay.
Yeah.
But that's a great source of information to know what's going on
Now, it's necessarily after the fact, but it does refer to the future. So.
Okay, very good.
But it could be like 2 weeks or a month later, right, that we would get them, yeah.
Well, and what our hope is that most of us attend the board meetings, that as action is taken that's pertinent to whatever the ECAC has done, we will get that information to Marion the next day, and you will have it in an email if it's related to the issues that you guys have taken a position on, or even the goals and objectives that we have here. If they've taken a position on, repowering number 2 or number 3, and you guys have already seen that, and that's a goal that is already, you will see that information that's pertinent, and then that's a goal that's done, and you can move on to something else. So that's how it'll relate.
Not to put too fine a point on that, but what Pat's referring to is that, you said that sometimes you'll catch a snatch of something in the newspaper, and with our own board, they don't like to be surprised by reading about something in a newspaper. At a minimum, we can extend the same courtesy to you that if something is going to appear in the newspaper, that you hear from us first.
That'd be great. Thank you.
How frequently, or how soon after the board meetings are the minutes posted on the website?
Typically, the IID board meets 3 times a month. There's an informational meeting in between 2 business meetings. And
you do action items at the 2 business meetings.
Right, and they're consecutive. And the only lag is between the informational meeting and the second business meeting, and the secretary will combine those into one agenda package. So you would typically see them the week following the meeting.
And they meet when?
On Tuesdays in El Centro, and then once a quarter up here.
Thank you.
Ms. Franklin, you want to continue?
No, I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay. Wow, that was easy. You just want to receive more feedback from the board taking action and positions or things that we have vetted through this committee, and have more correspondence letting us know what the board is doing. So it's easy. Mr. Ramos, Chief of Police.
Thank you, boss. It's one of my many bosses. Public policy, that's what we're here for. Stay away from the micromanaging. I think, the policy decisions that we help the board make, that's what we need to focus on, and how they get the job done, we need to stay away. And I think when we get into that, we have no business being there. But that needs to be presented where we're not going to muddle, because if we're muddling, that means the questions aren't being answered. So that's what I'm looking at: fiscal, strategic, and making sure the public benefits and infrastructure is addressed. And is it good policy we're making for our consumers, and making sure we're always looking at what's best for our consumers.
Okay, that one didn't need a summary because it was already summarized. So we'll go on to Ms. Bratton.
I think that Brad put it well with we need to be sure that we're focusing on what's good policy and what's for consumers. I appreciate these goals and objectives. I believe that they are or can be very consumer oriented, and that was always my impression of what we were here for. I have felt during this time that I've been on this board that often staff felt that this board was an us versus them situation, which makes me very uncomfortable. I've never been on a board where the board and the staff are never going to agree 100%, 100% of the time. If you do, then one side or the other is brain dead. But it doesn't mean that you have to disagree or that you are working in opposite directions. I have felt it was a us versus them, a them versus us, that many of our comments were taken in that way, and I, for one, have certainly never felt that way, that was our deal. I would like us to work more as a team so that we felt more that we were making progress doing this consumer policy thing. But the technical part that you presented, I actually think helps us make policy. It would be very hard for me to say that it's good policy or bad policy to repower a unit, to break down a hydro unit, if I didn't have some clue what a unit looked like or how it worked or the theory at least behind it. So I've appreciated that education that you've given me. It's a lot better than my little visual of electrons running down the wire, you know?
Fifth grade science project.
Yes, exactly. So I really actually appreciate some of that technical things that you've helped us with.
The technical that supports the
Supports
policy.
the policy, yes, right.
That is exactly right.
And I feel that the presentations from the time I first came on the board till through this time have improved and have become more focused. I've really appreciated that. So I would like to add, I want to support this policy approach, this consumer orientation. I would like to mitigate this us versus them so that we can have a better loop so that our information goes over, that information comes back, we communicate with each other, and I hope move forward to help consumers.
Thank you, Becky. Mr. McNickey.
Yes, thank you. I concur with Chief Ramos on some of his statements as to what this committee is and what our goals are and objectives, which we're looking into. And he highlighted public policy and is it good for the consumer. And I think most of the things since I've been on here, most presentations, really that's the bottom line on the presentations. You get into system reliability, rates, things like that. That's why hopefully I wanted to be on this board and got appointed to look over that and make sure we're getting the biggest bang for our buck as consumers. And I think the title of our committee kind of says it all in a nutshell there. Just everything from the resource plan to the budget, it all affects the ultimate end user, the consumer. So we more or less are watchdogs, or at least an advisory group to the board. And then speaking to my colleague, Mr. Hernandez, on milestones, I think we already have, we're keeping milestones, and that's what we send to the board. If they approve it, then we're doing good, and if they didn't, there's something wrong. So anyway, I think we're on the right track, and we'll get there and do what we have to do.
Thank you, Mr. McNickey. Mr. Sharp? No, he's not here. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you. A lot of rehashing of what has already been presented very well by most. The presentations that were mentioned have been getting better. It's not as though it's the first dry run that you've came in here on the 11th hour to present. The presentations are more fit for staff when you get there, so that it's already well oiled when it gets here nowadays. I appreciate that more. What Mr. Perez talked about, the budgets by the quarters, all of the internal numbers inside that where we were going to get towards, where all the different departments were going to have. It was mentioned that that's where we were going to go as a goal for the IID. Like the police chief said, we don't need to know the finite numbers of what department is spending what, but the quarterly review coming back this way, that would be nice. That way you know that you're on budget, you're on track. There are times where we need to spend more money on certain items. For instance, if someone's still in our copper, we need to get into that. It's just a nice understanding. And the technical side, a couple years ago we needed a big generator, so we ordered one, and then a year later darn if we didn't need a new road to put that big generator on to bring it in. And those are the technical things we do need that we can ask. The good question is, well, how much does this weigh, and do we need a road to bring this in on? And it's the technical part I still would like to see. It would be a good dumb question. Well, how big is this, and do we need a new road? I didn't get it. I didn't see it, and we end up ordering a new road. So it's kind of where I'm at with it.
Thank you. Mr. Alsop?
That's one thing about being last. You can sit here after all of these good ideas and say ditto, 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 and sound intelligent. But anyway, I think these ideas that we got are heading in the right direction. I would like to know what happened to some of our past recommendations. Were they in place? Really, what happened to them? I mean, it's the board prerogative to either use it or dismiss it. I mean, we're not dictators. I feel that this committee needs to be in front of the public more. I don't feel that the people, I don't know about Coachella Valley, but I don't believe Imperial Valley, we are known that this committee even exists, let alone who we are. Mm-hmm. And I think this would be a big help. The cities, there's some city people here that have planning commissions, and I think that this committee could be a planning commission for the board of directors. Oftentimes, instead of something being offered to us for next meeting, it's offered to us for decision tonight. And I get home and I think about it, and I say, I'm dumb to vote that way. I should have went the other way. I mean, we need to think a little bit instead of just giving it to us and say, here it is, vote. We need to think about it. And this is the way I was 20 years on the Planning Commission for Calapat chairman, and we got information, and they met every 2 weeks, not once a month. And next time, we had time to think about it, and we had information. And this is something I think would help all of us, is getting information in advance, letting the public know who we are, and I think this would be a big help to the board myself.
Okay, you brought up something that no one else has brought up, which is a really excellent point about having more public contact. Mm-hmm. One vehicle where we might be able to do that might be having community coffee, where we and I'm just kind of talking out loud, where we as a committee go to Imperial and we as a committee come here and just invite the public to come and just talk about energy consumer stuff.
Yeah, we have the paper down there. I've never seen it in it, not seen it. It hasn't been there. The weekly rosters of meetings. And I've never seen this meeting advertised in that paper. Maybe they're every week. Every month.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That might be part of the public campaign that we were talking about.
The ECAC meetings are advertised both in the Imperial Valley and here. Not complete agendas, but...
But you mean posted?
I mean actually advertised.
There's an advertisement.
Paid ads.
There was an actual advertisement on the
paid
Desert
ads.
Sun today.
Is it in the Imperial Valley Press?
Yes, it is. It's in the Desert Sun up here as well. But to Mr. Alsop's point, what could be done is to, because I too have been struck by the lack of any public at these meetings, either in the Imperial Valley or here. We could bring either a subset of the ECAC or whoever the committee designated before the board and actually have a public appearance there. If nothing else, that would increase the visibility of the group.
You're talking about just letting people know that we exist.
I think that would be a starting point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we are representing the directors, and tonight Mr. Director Minville can hear what the people of Calapat has, Louis and myself. You hear Hopeville, all of them, if we're out there, we can bring this to them, as well as Coachella Valley. I'm not familiar with the people and so on up here that well, but I do know a few of them up here, and one of them worked for the district. He didn't know they existed up here. So.
Thank you, Mr. Allison.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Ramos, you had another comment?
No, you got answered.
Okay.
Yes. I was also thinking in relationship to what you're saying that it would be good for us to serve as sort of ambassadors for IID in terms of presenting news about what is happening with the utility. And I know, being on the community council, we have a crowd every month, and they like to know what's going on. But we haven't had this organized enough to be able to present it according to goals. If we have written down goals that we want to see achieved, and also it would help with the agenda each time if we knew that this next time we're going to tackle this particular goal and what we have done to implement that or further that. We can let people know at public meetings that we attend what's going to be discussed at the next IID meeting.
A good example there, the rate increase would be a good example. Most people, when they saw the rate increase, they looked at their billfold. They didn't look at the future wind generators, solar generators, geothermal generators that's going to need transmission out of the valley, one way or the other. And the money's got to come from somewhere. You need to get it. I'm afraid I'm one of them that's going to have to pay it. All of it.
Madam Chairman,
yes,
in the past, I suggested, and it didn't go anywhere, that maybe when we come here, we ought to meet somewhere else closer to town where the people can know the location, for example, maybe at City Hall or the school auditorium or somewhere, high school auditorium, that people know and are easy to get at, so that people don't have to drive 4 or 5 miles. I don't know how far it is from Indio to here, or Thermal, so we can be readily accessible to the people. If they can hear, especially when they're discussing rate increases, because I've asked, I have relatives in this area. I said, did you know that we were discussing rate increases? No, I says, Thermal's about 5, maybe more. Heck, I don't know. But we're in the middle of nowhere.
For those of us, 5 is really close.
What?
For those of us that live in the country, 5 miles is really close.
Anyway, we're quite a distance from any of the civic centers, and maybe from time to time meeting in different locations might be better than constantly meeting here. Mm-hmm. In the Imperial Valley, of course, we have the board room, which is centrally located in the center of the valley, which is El Centro. And but there's no reason why we can't meet in the north end of the valley, or even on the south end of the valley, which is Calexico. I think we need to be more mobile to hear the people's concerns.
So, staff, what we're hearing here in this last leg of the discussion has nothing really to do with the goals and objectives, but more of a format that the committee would like to see, and that is that we would like to have more exposure to the public by whatever means we can figure how to do that, so that we are able to receive community input and feedback. We want to have a stronger connection with the board. We want to know, what action they take on recommendations that we make to them. These are all just structural recommendations, have nothing to do with goals or objectives. Yes, Ms.
I had one other suggestion, that the board give us input as to what they would like our advice on. I think that's the most important factor here. I think what Becky is talking about is true. To become a positive rather than an adversarial body, I think is extremely important, and having the board and administration say, this is what we would really like your advice on. Advice that's asked for is always better than advice that's given, despite what anybody wants.
Yes, Mr. Anderson.
The board meets up here quarterly, is that correct? Does anybody have the date of the next quarterly meeting for the supervisors up this way?
Supervisors or board?
Or the board?
Yeah.
Well.
You're going to put us in the county now?
Well, okay, here's my dilemma, not a dilemma. If we had a date and you guys have city news, that stuff like that, then we could take that information. The board will be meeting here on May 1st. Then we could get that information passed out to these representatives in the North End, and they can put it on their bulletins, and maybe one or two will show up, or we'll fill up this room.
And I can publicly announce that at my council meetings if I knew when that was.
You have one. There's others here, but more hands are getting out. Free advertisement.
We do also advertise when the board meets up here quarterly in the Desert Sun, the paper of record up here. But Marion tomorrow can determine when that I think it is in June. It might not be in June, but we will advise the ECAC when the next date is up here.
Some of us don't read the Desert Sun on purpose.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a nickname for it.
We run into the same thing with the Imperial Valley Press.
Madam Chair, just a suggestion in terms of how we notify meetings, and I think this is an issue with respect to all forms and levels of government where we want to see more participation. I do like the idea of maybe going to our community centers or schools and so forth, but I think for the public or what we do is we put it on the Desert Sun, and there's only a small it goes to the public notices in the back, and it really just gets overseen. So I challenge staff, I challenge my own staff at the city to look at different means in which to communicate to residents. Sometimes I've seen newsletters that are effective. Sometimes I've seen maybe just a note within the bill, the electric bill or water bill or whatever it is.
The bill stuffer would possibly be a good vehicle for that.
So it's just one of those things, because I mean a lot of residents, they don't really look at the public notice unless they're looking for a job, I think, or looking to buy some type of RV or something that's out there. But
I believe these are display ads. I don't believe that they're
not
classified like that.
You pay for them
They are
display
display ads.
Yeah.
It is. The one I saw in the Desert Sun is about 3 by 3, I would say, something like that.
Yeah, they're all copy ads, but your point's well taken. They're easily overlooked.
They are easily overlooked. So,
Ms. Franklin?
Yes. I report back on a monthly basis to council on all the committees that I'm on, and you probably do too. So, but I was just looking at the elected here today, and there are not very many of those. So the point that they're making is very well taken with respect to advertising somehow the fact that we do meet and we're here. With respect to moving this somewhere else where there's more visibility, my feeling on that is that our consumers are big people, they're grown-ups, and if they want to attend this, if they have an issue that they want to bring forward, they will find us. I don't believe in trying to march all around the city for more exposure. I can tell you we have city council meetings. Sometimes there'll be 5 people in the audience. But if there's something that somebody wants, if there's something that, like a rate increase, that would bring the folks out. As long as we're doing our part to make the consumer aware that there is, a place where they can come on a certain date to have their say, I think we've done our job. But other than that, they're big folks, and a lot of people just don't like to get out of the house after they go home, to be real honest.
Well, let's meet at 2 o'clock. Just kidding.
That's all.
Any other comments or questions on this side of the room? No? This side of the room? Okay. Thank you all for your valuable input, including staff, in bringing this item forward. I think we have excellent guidance on what this committee would like to see and some of the concerns that they've had up to this point. And as I mentioned earlier, before this staff report started, there is no wrong or right answer. There is no person that is bigger or better than anyone else or smarter than anyone else. I think we all bring valuable backgrounds and expertise to this committee. And between us all, we're going to weave this fabric that's going to guide Imperial Irrigation as far as the energy consumers are concerned. So thank you again to everyone. Staff, you don't have anything more on the proposed goals and objectives, but I do notice in our staff packet that we have the bylaws attached, the amended bylaws, which I was going to ask why they're there.
I'm not sure. I'll have Marion respond to that, but no action is required of the ECAC on this item, and you, Madam Chair, can leave it open-ended until you meet next. But there is an expectation on our board that that we will come back and report on the sentiment of the ECAC regarding this issue.
The sentiment, and you can share with them our comments on which is our response.
And the bylaws?
I think that's a separate item, isn't it? Or
Are you? The bylaws are there because they're to go with the next agenda item.
Yeah.
Which one?
Which is the discussion on the officer discussion.
Oh, the bylaws go with the officer discussion. Okay, so if there be no further discussion, we are moving on to item number 6, ECAC officer discussion. There's a staff report that we have that talks about the IID board action taken on March 16th, 2010, whereby the bylaws of this committee and the Water Conservation Advisory Board were revised to preclude any sitting appointee of either standing committee from simultaneously running for a seat on the IID board. And since our chairman, Matt Desert, is an official candidate for Division 1, his status as an ECAC member is no longer in force or valid, and this leaves a vacancy in the ECAC chairman position. That's the agenda item. But I will also...
Madam Chair, can I make a motion?
Well, just a minute before I finish talking. The agenda, Marion, the agenda item, I just wanted to comment that I think that that the bylaws will need to come back to us at a later time with the revision based. I know, but later we have to vote on it. Is it an action item tonight is the question?
No, it's just a discussion.
Okay, so next month we're going to have to vote on the revised bylaws.
Where's the section?
Where you amended it. Where did you amend it?
It was a membership.
I looked for it. I couldn't find it.
Probably the last section. 2.5. No.
I couldn't find it.
Maybe these aren't the revised. Maybe.
I did. I gave you the 09.
Okay. Well, next meeting we know what the revision is. Next meeting we'll have the revised ones. Next meeting we'll take action. So now, any questions of staff on the staff report before we entertain a motion? Questions? Okay then.
And the motion here is...
There is no motion yet.
So there's nothing?
I just wanted to know if there was any questions before we entertained a motion.
Oh, okay.
So now, whoever wants to motion can motion.
But we're motioning for chair and vice chair?
No,
No?
What are we motioning?
We're having a discussion.
So is this an FYI, or is I'm just confused?
We're having a
Item
discussion. This actually wasn't an action item. It wasn't up for a motion, but Mr. Ramos wanted to make a motion, so...
I misunderstood the staff report because I thought because of the loss of the leadership position, we needed to move forward. So...
Well, technically, I am here tonight, which I didn't announce at the beginning, I guess, was that I was the acting chair in absence of the chair. I'm not assuming this role.
You're the vice chair.
I'm the vice chair. The bylaws state that the committee will decide what they want to do in case of a vacancy. So this item was placed on the agenda for us to just discuss, not to take any action. No one's assuming anything. How many months were left on Matt's term?
I wanted to know.
like 8 months, 9 months.
8 months, I believe.
Okay, so we have a vacancy based on recent board action for the remainder of 8 months, and that's what the discussion is. Mr. Alsop?
Yes, you're the chair until a new officer is elected. And since this has been 1 year Coachella, next year Imperial, alternating, that's great. I mean, it should continue that way. And to fill the chair with a Valley president that has stepped down, it should be a Valley member, I feel. That way you will serve your complete 12 months next year. To cut you short this year or to make you serve a 20 months term, I think you should elect a new chair next month or whenever it is. And it should come from the Imperial Valley.
Are you nominating
so
yourself?
Not to cut you short or work you to death.
No, I'm just asking, I guess, if you want to step forward. Are there any other comments on the vacancy?
In terms of who did we have a secretary, or who was next in line from Imperial Valley to assume those roles?
Our challenge was when we had old bylaws, we used to have 3 elected positions, but when we adopted the new bylaws, it took us down to 2, so we don't have the next person in line.
So was there anybody in line for?
No. We're just taking turns.
No.
We, as a courtesy to each other, felt that it was fair to everyone that we alternate between the valleys, but we never had a discussion as to the lineup or the method of rotation. We left it up to each side of the valley, each valley to decide how they wanted to do that. So there's nothing set in stone. It's up to us to decide how we want to proceed.
Are we going to consider people for next time? At one time we were to bring up names and then vote on them at the next meeting, I think. Is that the way this is going to be done? Or
I think today we're just having the discussion. Next meeting we'll probably have nominations, right, Marion?
Okay.
So what Imperial representatives aren't here tonight, remind me? That's the new lady, Mrs. Carrillo, and Mr. Nunn.
Ken Sharp.
And Mr. Sharp.
Mr. Nunez.
Mr. Nunez.
And Mr. Cervantes.
And Mr. Cervantes. Okay, so we have 5 Imperial Valley members that aren't here tonight. Mm-hmm. So the purpose for tonight is just discussion. Does anyone have any objection to Mr. Elsop's?
I just had a comment, and I've seen this play out at another board where the bylaws kind of tied our hands a little bit. I know we want to rotate it back and forth, and then sometimes in continuity you look at, well, I've always looked at the vice chair should be the ascending person because the chair and the vice chair had worked. And when Matt and I were working together, those were some of the things that we had talked about. And for some reason that I had stepped down, and I know we're trying to keep the north and south. It's up to the pleasure of this body. Do they want to continue with that, or should we, as a governing of this committee, make the decision that if there is another vacancy, that the vice chair moves on up? That's the discussion point that
I'm going to
maybe
look
we need to talk
to my
about.
Imperial people for input.
I would think, like in this case, if the vice chair moves up to take his seat is up in November. She was elected for a 12-month period, so that would cut her short. Let her act as president until one can be elected. Then she was elected as vice chair to serve a 12-month term when she moves up, and that way she would get her full term. And we're all going to, regardless of who is chairman from time to time, they're going to be absent, and the vice chair is going to have to take it for a month or 2 months or something. But 8 months, I think there should be a new chair elected for it.
I would agree with that. I was just throwing out a different issue that had come up on another board that I'd sat on, and I'd like to make a motion that Michael Anderson be placed on from Imperial Valley on as the chair. Then,
Huh?
You mean you want to
There's
nominate?
no motion.
I would like
There's
to
no motion,
yeah,
but
make
There's
a
no
motion
No motion. We can
where we have a
take names.
slate of people for the next one, the nomination.
Nominations are next meeting.
So we have to wait till next meeting, then we can vote on it? Okay.
Nominations next meeting, and then
We might have to find a dirt mound.
So whoever's nominated to the chair position is only going to serve 3 months. 5 months.
You can refuse.
Correct.
Yeah.
Do we go dark in the summer?
I said you can refuse.
Not so much.
It's not a rule?
I thought it was one
We should
month.
Yeah, I know.
adopt that as a rule.
The bylaws are silent on rotation and on meetings, and so that would be subject to the call of the chair.
Okay, well, let's, we're not taking any action. Like I mentioned, we have 5 Imperial Valley representatives absent. If staff would share with them what the conversation was today, see if there's any interest in serving. It sounds like somebody's going to nominate somebody, whether he likes it or not. Smile.
Chair, couldn't we? Couldn't we take nominations next meeting and vote?
Yes, we will do both next meeting.
No, that's not. That's why I was trying to move the process, because if not, we're 3 meetings out.
Yeah.
So it's 4 months. And that was my understanding. Is it?
Yes.
That's why I was trying to get to the
Okay,
nominations.
you figure out the logistics of it.
You can.
Well, can I make a motion that next month's agenda include nominations and election? Is that proper?
That's what we want, but can we do it is the question.
Can we do it? That's the question. It's
I'll
not.
double check and get back to you.
Okay.
When are we going to vote if you get back to us?
Let's vote on it, just in case it's a go.
Well, the first thing we would have to do is that we would have to vote by a supermajority to make item 6 an action item rather than a discussion item, so that we can make a motion to take action to put on the next agenda item. Okay,
Well,
so
I motion to make item 6 an action item on today's agenda, so that we can take action for next meeting.
Second.
Just
Okay.
before you vote, we do have the in-house counsel here.
we do. Okay, 5-minute recess.
Brown Act violation.
We've finally found a useful purpose for him.
This was a long
my
drive
purpose
for
was to
Jeff.
eat the leftover food, but I don't think you have a significant legal issue here. Where the bylaws are silent, you're essentially free to do anything that's reasonable.
But we want to know if we can
Can we do it tonight, or do we have to wait?
What does the agenda say?
just ECAC officer discussion.
Well, I would suggest that the agenda suggests that you're not going to take action tonight, so I would say no.
No, we wanted to move that next meeting would be nominations and voting. That's what we-
I think you can set the agenda for next meeting, and I don't think that's written in stone, so the next meeting agenda can be whatever you want it to be.
But we don't know if we can do both in the same night.
Why not?
We don't know.
Robert
No,
says
We're
I don't
asking.
think, I don't think
We're
this is Brown
asking
Act.
you.
I think if you want to agendize the next meeting to nominate and take
vote.
action, that's fine.
You can do it.
But I think we need to go back, because I think I think the bylaws said it's the following meeting. That's
The bylaws say we have to have 2 separate meetings, is what Brad says.
Do the bylaws, if they say that, then
Where does it say?
unless we
I
change
stand
them.
corrected.
I don't know.
The new bylaws are
Article
virtually
4.
identical to the old. There's just been an addition of that one paragraph.
Loopy, and for today's question, though, I don't see a problem, and at least in my experience in handling the Brown Act, of doing nominations but not voting on them until next meeting. So we can nominate today, and then you can keep them open, and then you just vote on them, close it, and vote on it the next meeting.
But is that fair to the 5 Imperial Valley members that aren't here?
You snooze, you lose.
Should have been here.
Should have been here.
Do the other Imperial Valley people feel that way?
Usually, if you don't get show up, you get elected. So
I
maybe
second the snooze you lose comment. If you're not here, you can't vote. If the vice chairman assumes the responsibility of the chairman, according to our rules.
Yeah.
Say that again. Say that again.
If we have a quorum,
You're here.
We do.
then we can vote.
No problem.
The problem is that the Brown Act is essentially a notice issue. Did the public get notice of what you're going to do? And what you told them here is that you're going to discuss. You didn't say you were going to take action. Nomination would require take action.
Yeah, but
My respectful suggestion is that you do the nominations at the next meeting, and you notice that under the Brown Act. There's no reason why you can't vote at the next meeting,
Yeah,
too.
that's fine then.
okay.
That's fine. Okay.
Everybody okay?
The
In
one
the
meeting he shows up to gives us the
I
wrong legal
know.
advice.
We wanted to do it our way. Okay, but please, we need to get a hold of the 5 Imperial Valley members that are not here.
Just to Mr. Ramos, I did just review the election, fairly terse reference to elections, and it's always in case of an annual meeting. So I think probably
this is a special election.
I think Mr. Garber probably. I think it is silent in this particular case
because it's special. Makes me feel special. Are we all okay with that? Coachella Valley, you have any input?
That's fine.
No, I wonder why we don't have 2 vice presidents. Since the problem is, since the agreement is, which it definitely is a consensus, that we rotate. I wonder why we don't have.
We used to.
2 vice presidents. One being a first vice president, one being a second vice president, and the second vice president would be from the same area as the president.
That would take another amendment of our bylaws. And
I know, and that's such a big frigging deal, so it's not worth it.
Okay, guys, are we all done with this discussion?
We're good.
We're good? All right. Watch out, Anderson. Somebody's going to nominate you. Okay, moving on. Item number 7. Energy Department update. Mario, are you going to come up? Mr. Escalera.
I'd like to nominate Brad Ramos.
What kind of car you drive?
Blue Expedition. Mario Escalera, Manager, Operations and Energy Infrastructure. Real quickly, what I would like to brief the committee on is and just a real quick update on how the system reacted to the major earthquake that we had in the Imperial Valley. I am very proud and happy to say that the system as a whole reacted quite well. We did lose power initially, and that is because our system actually did what it was supposed to do. It reacted to the adverse movement, shutting itself down incrementally without damaging any of the infrastructure. Once the system got to a point where it itself felt safe, we then were able to bring the system back up. Of course, we started with transmission. Once we brought that up, then it was a matter of just getting all our distribution lines up and running. It took us about 24 hours plus to get everybody up and running. The majority of the customers, particularly in the cities, was within a couple of hours. And just to go into some real technical aspects, because I know some of you guys really, really enjoy it, is the reason most of our substation, our distribution system is not what we refer to as a smart system. Most of the smartness is inside the substations. That's where all of the communications with our central control agency. Once it gets out of the substation and goes down what we refer to as a circuit, which is the smaller power poles you see, or like up here in this area, most of it being underground, it's basically a dumb system. It just kind of runs. It doesn't know. There's no way for us to know if that part of you're out. We literally have to depend on a customer telling us and call in and have a no power signal. And that's really what took us the longest. We were fortunate that it happened on the holidays because there was a lot of people out. But at the same time, because there was a lot of people out, there was people that took 2 or 3 days to get back, and they found out they had no power. So basically, we were dependent on that. Most of what we do is these long systems are fused. As you can imagine, like you have fuses in your homes, we have the same thing on our distribution system, so that if there's an outage or an event in part of the system, it segregates that piece and everything else can go on. So most of the time that we spent, at least on the distribution side, was really just refusing our distribution lines. I mean, that's what all our troubleshooters did. We sent 2 crews of troubleshooters, actually 3 crews of troubleshooters from La Quinta down to Imperial to assist us in getting the customers out. We also have an interconnection to Mexicali, which is helping them stabilize their system off of they of course received the brunt of the impact of the event. They're still struggling and trying to get a lot of their system up, even though the majority of their system up and running. Again, I want to just congratulate the staff that responded. Our emergency operating center was called. That's assumed. We have one in the Imperial Water Control. It brings in all of the critical staff. From there, we dispatch. but our staff was already in the field by the time that was called. We fielded the phone center till about midnight. We received well over 30,000 phone calls the next Monday. We were able to field most of those phone calls. Other than that, I think it was certainly, we're still experiencing earthquakes. We had a 4.3 yesterday, had a couple of 3.0s today. Last I heard, we were over 4,000 earthquakes since last month, Sunday. But the system is doing well. We have estimated on the energy side, we sustained about $1 million worth of damage. It's quite minimal considering with the amount that the water department has experienced. They're estimating it could be anywhere from 6 to 40 million, depending if the siphon has to be replaced. I'm not up on that, but from a structural standpoint, we did really well. Customer-wise, we did really well. That's kind of the report that I wanted to give.
Mr. Perez?
Mario, you said that certain areas are dumb. In other words, you don't know whether they're on unless somebody calls you. Is that what
Yes, if you're further down the circuit, we can't detect if you're out. If it's at the substation, we can detect that the system is out. But if it's down the circuit, we can't detect if particular blocks are out, and that's typically when a customer will call in and have a no call.
The reason why I'm asking is because where my daughter lives, which is south of 8th Street, on 8th, but south of the highway, her street went up. But right next behind her, the family right behind her, which was on Manzanitas, I think is the name of the street, they were out. They were almost 24 hours.
Yeah.
And yet couldn't figure out why in the name of heavens one side is on, the next side is not on. You know.
It's a completely different circuit, most likely. It was probably a segment of a circuit, and it could have been also the problem. I mean, everything wasn't just fuses. I mean, it shook hard enough that in some areas, the overhead areas, we actually had the wires wrap around each other. I mean, there was so much swing in the pole that if you see these wires coming in, they got around to a point where they actually wrapped themselves around.
Well, the reason why I'm asking, I'm gonna notify her to tell her neighbors next time, call in. Don't wait for it to come out.
No, really, that is the thing to do. Is as soon as you either have no power or what they call low power. One of the other issues we had on some of the older neighborhoods that still have three-phase power available is they received what is called low power. We only had two legs running with one leg out. Well, to the normal person, it just seems like your lights are a little kind of dim. It doesn't really do a lot of good to the equipment, especially if you have a dryer or water, anything that's big, because it will hurt it after a long time. But a lot of these people didn't realize that they had lost a leg. And then, of course, when our troubleshooters would go by and look at the porch lights on, and they just kept on going. I will tell you, as we implement the AMI, which is one of the things that was brought over to the committee about a month or so ago, one of the things that will do is it will alleviate that problem quite a bit, because the smart meter will actually tell us, hey, by the way, I'm not receiving any power. You need to do something. Right. So that's one of the things that the AMI smart meters will resolve is just that inability for us to detect what's out on the distribution side.
It's interesting that there seems to have been more of an impact on utility companies north of the epicenter. I was south of the epicenter, and we didn't have those issues. In the epicenter, there were those issues, but south of the epicenter, we didn't have that.
If you looked at the model that I think it was Caltech did, is it actually the earthquake traveled north.
Yeah,
very little of it went south. I mean, there was just the initial amount, and then all of it traveled. North. There was quite extensive damage in the Yuma area. Wow. Which we had never really, at least in my experience, that it never got that far. But there was a lot of damage in the Yuma area. If you look at it, it went 7.2 epicenter. By the time it got to Calexico, it was 6.9. By the time it got to El Centro, it was actually right about 5. I think it was 6.2. Brawley, it was already down to 5.7. So even in that short period of time, it lost a lot of energy.
Wow. Great response. Any questions of staff?
Yes. Mario, are we sending electric across the border to Mexico?
I believe that we are selling power to Mexicali, right, Dave? Not anymore?
No. Is there still the two connections?
This question was asked to me by one of the board members who has to be sitting here, Dave Koch, planning manager. And I gave a wrong response. We have not provided energy to south of the border. We've provided some ancillary services that allows them to synchronize. And every time we did try to provide energy, our system collapsed. So
let's explain what our system collapsed means.
The relays opened up.
Our relays opened. It didn't collapse our system.
Our relays at IV sub, Imperial Valley sub, separated. So we kept trying to sync their system. Every generator in the western states turns at the same speed. Doesn't matter whether it's a big one, little one, they all turn the same. But when you lose the signal, then all of CFE's generators are trying to turn at different speeds, which is bad. So we tried to provide the power or the signal to get them all turning at the same speed again. Okay. That's what we were doing over there. In terms
what I was wondering was, in reading the paper, what I had heard was kind of conflict with each other. Someone said, no, they're not connected to Mexico, and I thought we had two places that we could cross the border at one time. I don't know whether they're still there or not, but I was just curious if we still had that capability.
Technically, we are not connected with CFE. Yeah. We have our system, and then at IV sub, we have the Cal ISO system, and then CFE's on the other side of IV sub. Yeah. So technically, we are not directly interconnected to them. IV sub was damaged, and it's still out, so we have connected at the bus. In effect, we've skipped over the ISO. So we're providing these ancillary services, this signal, but we are not providing them energy.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
That helps me understand why it took 2 days for the power outage to get up to Mecca.
What's that?
And Mr. Anderson?
She wanted to know about why it took 2 hours for the power to reach.
2 days.
2 days.
The power outage took 2 days to get to
after the earthquake.
After the earthquake. I think you guys did an amazing job to keep as much power on during a major event. No.
I'm not going to lie to you. Sometimes the amount of, if you can imagine the amount of orders just coming in, some get lost. And there's really very few reasons why anybody would have been out of power for 2 days.
No.
Of this
it was my power went out 2
days later.
Well, we didn't want the north end to feel left out, just
the delays.
Just to remind you that we're still here.
Right.
She forgot to mention she didn't pay her bill.
That helps too.
3 or 4 years ago, whether it was Matt Carter, Gil Perez, or Norma who made suggestions for a earthquake type game plan, a book to run by. Were you working off of that, or was it just the seat of your pants, everybody working on it? Kind of a broad general question.
No, okay. Well, I thought I had a good answer.
Well, okay. I'm sure you did. The ID had a protocol in place because we participated in Operation Golden Guardian the year before, and it turned out that that worked. People remembered what they were supposed to do, and it continues even now on the water side because we have a problem at All-American Canal at the siphons, and our emergency operations center that was activated on the night of, or on Easter Sunday. Is still in place and has now set up an emergency command post at the site of the All-American Canal siphon problem. So there is a protocol and we're following it.
Okay. Last week I received a phone call by an IID member asking me, because I work for the phone company, whether the land just adjacent to one of our central offices in Bombay was available for a staging point to lend some of the ID's equipment. What I want to get to is if we could go back to the people that participated in the protocol, find out what worked, what didn't work, what we need to work on to revise it, because we actually had an event that people were active in, a real-time event versus one that's staged on a book. You know, boom, we're here, we have whatever, 500 people injured, and how you triage them, that sort of thing. The suits that I've seen out in the field, I aided and assisted, and this was located at 333 Barione on the east side fence. Some of your insulators guarding the grounding there. I saw the cracks and the actual broken insulators. I aided them. My fellow co-workers working for the phone company were able to contact the IID and within hours get a good response, get the power back up, and they send their regards back to the IID that they appreciated how fast you did it. So I wanted to extend that part out. But the part of the taking what we did do that didn't work, or what did work, reinvent that back into the protocol would be a good goal and objective, I believe.
That hot wrap-up that accompanies or follows an event like this hasn't happened yet, just because the event's continuing. Yeah. But yeah, I'm sure that's. I'm not familiar with the instance you're talking about, but I'm sure things like that did occur.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. If there be no further questions of Mr. Escaleta, we're going to move on to item B. Dr. Koch, Resource Planning Transmission.
Thank you, Commissioners. Dave Koch, Resource Planning Manager. Mario had taken what I was going to talk about on the earthquake, so there's two other things. You've been provided a copy of the 2010 Integrated Resource Plan. Mm-hmm. This is as part of Objective C. The plan has been out for a good 6 weeks now, and so it's ready to start being rewritten. These things continue to work, and this, hopefully you'll read it and enjoy it. Second, based upon what we've seen with announcements by LA and some of the other cities, we are now the least cost utility. We're lowest priced utility in Southern California, okay, which we think is a good goal, so long as we meet our regulatory and legislative obligations. So thank you very much.
Mr. Ramos, you have a question, Dr. Koch?
Yeah, Dave, I have a couple questions. I reviewed this, and on page 2 of the executive summary, I don't know if it was an oversight or if we totally missed something. It talks about the, and actually where I really get to is if you go to page 10, it's on the indicators. It keeps referring to Imperial County as your forecasting model. My question is, we're not including Riverside County more specifically, this area?
Well, we're trying to include our service territory. It's very difficult for me to identify Imperial County and parts of Riverside County, given that I don't have data on parts of Riverside County.
And I understand that, but what it leads to believe is that I've spent a lot of years living in Imperial County. Is the growth in Imperial County is different than what's been going on here, yes, and yet your entire Chapter 2 on forecast of demand and energy requirements is specifically geared towards Imperial County, not the Coachella Valley. So my fear is when we had this growth that occurred up here is nobody really saw the growth occurring, and we're not taking that into consideration. So I would ask, since this is a draft format, is my assumption, is that I would like to see the Coachella Valley service area be included, because I think we're missing key factors. It's talking about unemployment rates. It's talking about growth rates.
The difficulty,
energy forecast.
I'm sorry.
I mean, for us up here, it seems like we're excluded, yet we need to address it.
Well, you are excluded because there's no data.
Yeah, it's
I
hard.
mean, when you forecast for the United States as a whole, it's easy. When you get to the Northeast, Southwest, it's easy. When you get to a state, it's easy. When you get to a county,
I would disagree. There's is it CVAG, Steve? CVAG. There's a ton of
what he's
information.
saying, he can pull. No,
County
but
EDA.
What he can pull is City of La Quinta, City of Indios, City of Coachella. Is Mecca a city?
No.
Okay.
Community.
He can't bifurcate the unincorporated areas from the county numbers, and that's where his challenge is when he looks at the CVEP numbers or the CVAG numbers or the county numbers. But I agree that some reference needs to be in here about the rest of us little people.
You're actually 60% of our load. So, yes, we recognize
Just
that.
reference us. Just reference us. I know the data's hard to collect because I've tried to do that myself. You can't pull data for just the South County.
Right.
Yeah, we'll
Because
accept a footnote.
My concern is as we're 60% of the power, is if we don't try to factor this in, the district's going to be trying to play catch up, and then the consumers are going to be yelling. That's what I'm looking at. We need to address it.
To the validity of the report, if
you don't have the Coachella.
Actually, for 2009, our forecast was off by less than 0.75% on energy and less than 1.5% on demand, which is always very difficult.
So then you must have included some information.
Yes. I do in Riverside and Imperial County. I mean, I'm using both, and I have data for both, for what we call the Coachella Valley and the Imperial Valley. And I look at it by commercial and commercial and residential. My difficulty is coming up with a good fit or good correlation for data from Riverside County, because Coachella is a very small portion of all of Riverside County. Yeah. And as far as the Southern California Association of Government data, years ago as a grad student, I developed the models that were used for many years, particularly the input-output model for SCAG.
Did you really? Did you really?
It was 25 years ago. No, I'm sorry. It was 28 years ago. So
I wasn't even born yet.
Data.
I appreciate that comment, sir. But that was actually my discussion.
Well, we were just
small
we're
areas.
just hoping that there can be a reference in there so that the assumption is not that it excludes other areas.
That's fine, and we can go into it. We are having to redo the models now. California seems to have fallen off a cliff in October, and we're going back and looking at all the data again.
Mr. Anderson, come on.
If you can't reference them, at least humor them.
Tell us we're special.
Yes, ma'am. But you are 60% of our load, and that means that we cannot exclude what's going on here.
I'd like to hear that.
Is that it? That was it? Okay. Any other questions of Dr. Koch on his staff report regarding resource planning and transmission?
Look forward to reading it. The only thing you didn't get the memo that Calexico was going to ask you for $100 million to transfer over to their general fund? Guess not, right?
No.
Thank you, Dr. Koch. Okay, moving on to item number 8, member comments. This is the time set aside for us to additionally comment. Let's start on this side over here this time. Mr. Ailes, would you like to add any additional comments this evening?
Well, I just think this has been a good... My mic away from me. I think this has been a very informative meeting tonight. I think can lead to better things from us to the board and back and forth. I think this could come out a very good meeting.
Thank you. Share that with your fellow Imperial committee members that weren't here today. Mr. Anderson.
I'll ditto that comment also. I think the earthquake tried everybody. I think everybody came through on that one with beautiful colors. Sorry to hear about Mecca 2 days later, but, hey. Thank you.
Mr. McNicky.
It was very good discussion. Very good discussion. I appreciated everyone's input, and I think we're on the right track and acting as a committee.
Thank you. Ms. Bratton.
As I was paying my multiple bills to IID, I noticed that the piece of paper the stuffer that you put in that envelope, did include a reminder to the snowbirds in various ways that one could pay one's power bill, even if you were not in the area. So I thought it was well done. It was easy to read, and it was very respectful and caring of the customers. So I really liked that reaching out to it, because although it was referencing those persons that would be out of the area, the same methods are available to those of us that are here all the time. So I thank you for that and for your consideration of the customer.
Thank you. Mr. Ramos?
Just if we could have a follow-up for the 3 vacancies that we have on.
We have one.
I think we have 2 up here.
We have 1 vacancy.
One?
Oh, yeah.
We
Marion,
have 2 up.
We have 2 Coachella Valley vacancies, or 1.
No, we have Palm Desert.
We have Palm Desert
and a county.
And the county.
We have a potential for the Palm Desert Rancho Mirage, and I'll probably have more word on that later this week. So we probably will have someone by the next meeting, and I'll follow up with the county again to see what we can do on that one.
Can you make it a regular agenda item until we're full, just so that we keep it in the forefront, because we'd like to be complete?
Sure.
Thanks. Is that it, Brett?
Yes.
Ms. Franklin?
I just want to thank you for listening to us. I think the overall consensus was that we were sort of like mushrooms up here for a while. So you've done this is such a good plan to follow, something to go on initially, and I just appreciate your listening to our complaints.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, Steph. Thank you for taking the time to meet with each one of us individually and for listening to me. Thank you, Board Member Menville, for being here at our meetings, especially for this one. This was a very important one for us. We've been asking for this for a long time. And thank you to all the committee members for being open and honest this evening. I'd like to just ask the committee's permission. I'm going to be sending, if that's okay with the committee, some certificates of appreciation to our 2 retired committee members, Mr. Desert and Mrs. Sierra Galindo, and also one to Mr. Ham, if that's okay with the committee. Send them nice letters thanking them for their service and a little certificate of appreciation. Okay. And see how fun it is to have me as a chairwoman? Yeah. I'm not so bad.
I'll wait till November.
Okay, moving on, Ms. Soleil.
I can't say any more. I think it's absolutely wonderful that this question was taken up and analyzed, and we've come up with some new sense of direction that I think will help in the future.
Thank you. Mr. Perez?
Yes, I want to thank the staff for preparing this goals and objectives, and I hope you're better informed now. Anyway, but there's one thing that I do wish you would put on the agenda for next month. Is what we discussed. You said your information readily available is the expenditures for the public benefit funds. You said you had it, right?
Well, he wants the last monthly report. You said
monthly report.
Somebody said they made a monthly report. We just want to see the last report.
Not available.
What Mr. Swarthout meant to say was each month we have the entire budget as part of the budget report to the board. We don't break out the public benefit funds specifically on a month-by-month basis, but I will have them available for you.
Well, you can break them out then quarterly.
They will be however you
want
them, but you will have a report for them next month.
It doesn't have to be a full-blown report, just
we
update.
might as well see where we're spending the money now, because
just like an update item.
I think the main thing is coming up with the goals and then how that budget relates to those goals. That's what I would like to hear.
That's fine.
Is that it, Gil?
That's it.
Okay, Mr. Blum.
I'll echo the rest of the committee that the goals and objectives, good work, very good work. Thank you. I do have a question. Possibly Mr. Menville. Do you review the budget on a monthly basis and compare actual to year to date like I do in many of the organizations that I sit on?
Mr. Broking brings a financial statement to the board. I think it's every quarter. I don't think it's on
it's a
monthly
quarterly
basis.
review?
Yes.
Okay.
But the board does review and approve or accept whatever the CFO, Mr. Broking, brings to us. So it is brought to the board level both for water and for power.
Now, what did we decide tonight? Did we decide that we were going to review the budget on a quarterly basis?
What we're going to do is, I know one thing that I heard here is when the budget is brought out in October, when our board gets it, your board is also going to get it also. Your committee is going to get it to start reviewing the budget. We do not pass the budget until December.
Right.
And then we will have workshops in El Centro and up here in La Quinta to go over the budget. But what we're trying to do here, and I think this has been an excellent meeting, but we're all trying to achieve more transparency with the IID for its customers. And I think we're going down the right road.
So does that mean that we're going to review the budget on a quarterly basis also, or at least have a report to us?
Right. We talked about taking a look at quarterly reviews, not only for the fiscal, which would include the budget, but also on strategic goals and how we're measuring up to those. So whatever it is that staff already prepares for the board will be shared with us, hopefully, not as a staff report, but as FYI review update. This is where we're at.
Okay.
In as much as Mr. Perez has asked for those specific reports for the next meeting, perhaps you could defer on a schedule until after you've reviewed those and treat it as you would this larger goals and objectives list that you have before you now.
Okay. What I'm hoping to accomplish is that on a quarterly basis we will see financials, so in a format that will be the budgeted amount, the actual amount, and the year-to-date minus or plus, so that we can look at a budget and see what's happening. How's it going? I mean, the financial condition of the corporation is a primary concern of both the board and this group, and at least for us to have a periodic review of it, I think is incumbent on us.
We'll certainly provide that according to the schedule that you decide.
All right.
The next meeting we can have someone from finance here.
All right. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Mr. Hernandez?
Good meeting.
Mr. Sandejas?
Yes. Last week I had the opportunity to go to the Nyland plant. Director Stella Mendoza invited me to see it. I guess they're working on some problems they have with the chillers. And it was a very learning tour that I did. I wish that everybody here in the committee will be able to go to see that plant. It's something else.
Thank you, Mr. Zendejas. Okay, item number 9. Our next meeting is May 3rd in El Centro. Hopefully we'll have 100% attendance so we can go forward with nominations and voting in a chairman's position. And if there be no further business before this committee, we stand adjourned at 7:59.